First mouse I'm testing are from Pulsar, the X2V2 size 1 and 2, and the X2H. They're slightly different in shape, so let's start with up. So if I just showed you this on camera, they'd look basically the same, but the comfort curves are slightly deeper on the V2. And on the base, the sides flare out a little more, giving you a slight ledge for your fingers to keep them off the pad. Not enough to actually keep them off, but they help, if that's what you're going for. Also notice there's more of a taper on the V2 along the baseline. All of this is hard to show on camera, but they're minor details so it doesn't really matter. The main difference in terms of feel, with the H, the hump is further back, so this area feels the hand more. If you like your palm touching there, especially in claw grip, I'd say this is for you, whereas the V2 won't feel the palm like that. It'll fit fingertip a bit better, or if you claw without much palm contact, that's what this is for. Otherwise, they're quite a safe shape, kind of in line with the Ninjutsu Sora, which also seem based on the endgame gear shape. Mouse design is subtle, so they actually do feel different. I prefer the comfort curves of the X2V2 from Pulsar, the sides of the Ninjutsu Sora, and endgame gear XM2WE, but would any of these be deciding factors? No, not really. I think the choice will come down to weight, button feel, performance and features. But so you know the sizes, let's talk dimensions. Starting with the X2H, width is 5.5, length is 11.5, height 3.67, and button height 1.76. X2V2 size 1 is the same length, but as said, slight flare on the sides, so the grip width is 5.7 centimeters, height is 3.6, and button height slightly lower at 1.67. And the size 2, width is 5.95 centimeters, length is 12, height 3.7, and button height 1.83, so that's the bigger size. So for the X2H, because the hump is slightly more toward the back, I can almost palm grip it with 18cm hands, so slightly under that should be okay. Claw and fingertip between 17 and 19, same for the size 1 V2. The base being flared out doesn't actually change the recommendation that much, because it's mainly just the base that's actually different size. But palm grip would be under 17cm with the hump being more forward. For the size 2 I can pretty much palm grip it, so under 18cm, and for claw and fingertip, I'd say between 19 to 21. Ideally though, go for as small as possible. Here's a comparison with other mice so you get an idea. And it's very rare that I see a problem with sensors these days. It's barely worth mentioning, so I'll just say I didn't have any issues in game, they were all really good. Doing a quick latency test using the bump method, compared with the Death Adder V3, seems like there's about 3 or 4 milliseconds. And speaking of buttons, here's a listen to the clicks. Okay, so they have a sharp but hollow sound. Can't say I'm a fan. They're not too bad though. However, the H version did develop an extra little rattle, which isn't loud or anything, but I just worry that's going to develop a problem later on. Really hard to say this early. What did worry me is the scroll wheel. The steps on this one are way too light. I had so many limbo jumps in Apex that I actually wanted to stop using the mouse. It was fine in Quake where I don't use the wheel, and there is some good news. On the X2V2 versions, they've increased the tension. So yeah, they're louder, but they very rarely had limbo jumps on those. So these ones are good, just the H version had the issue. Hopefully going forward, all their wheels will have this tension. The H copy does seem to have nicer side buttons though, more of a snappy click. The V2 versions feel a bit mushy. Not bad, still okay on the travel distance and all that, just talking preference here. So the buttons could be improved, but I guess that's normal. Barely bothered me in game for the most part, just something I thought I'd mention for you. And for weight, 52 for the size 1. And 54 grams for the size 2. The balance seems slightly toward the back, but not to the point where it caused a problem. And despite the low weights, they seem well built, no creaks or cracks with mine, good feet, good cables, pretty standard these days. Mice are in a good place. The black plastic unfortunately picks up on fingerprints, just like the endgame gear mice. but maybe not quite as bad. Feels fine, but yeah, I'd prefer they didn't use this sort of plastic, just because it doesn't look that great on the desk. It's not a huge problem, but something worth looking at in the future. They do have software, but it isn't certified, so I installed it on an empty computer just to check it. I personally didn't need this, but you can do the usual, pretty basic. And it has a sync option. I just played with it on, seemed fine, so I don't think it's worth installing software just to change that setting. So hopefully they do get it certified, so we don't have to worry about installing it. Also, you can pair these mice with a 4K dongle, which you can buy separately. I personally recommend sticking with 1000Hz for all mice, but it's there if you want to try it. So conclusion, great safe shapes, solid performance and specs, and low weight. Really good mice, had fun using them. Which should you choose? This is the issue with creating similar mice to other companies. Unless they have really different features, you're basically choosing between clones. They're not that different. That said, the Sora is the lightest, so that would still be my pick. I think the lower the weight, the better. But if I was choosing a mouse like this for me, I'd actually go the smaller one. So I'd be choosing the X2 Mini. In my opinion, the size difference is going to make up for the weight difference. But you can't really go wrong, these are all top mice. And maybe you still prefer a bit of extra weight, so you'd want the Pulsar mice instead. I've seen a few of you comment that you actually like the heavier mice. Some people even say they want 70 grams. So that's fair, it's up to you. I'm just trying to give you a guide based on my experience. Hopefully that's helped. And looking forward to seeing more mice from Pulsar. It's great that we're getting these new companies on the scene, so thanks to them for sending them out. Obviously, I'm not biased or sponsored, and no sponsor in this video. If I was going to have a sponsor, I do have a mouse designed through Xtrify, so you can check that out, the MZ1 Wireless, or the pad GPZ1. And while that does support it, obviously only buy it if that's what you're looking for. You have to find what's right for you. No mouse is going to suit everyone, so it's great that we have choices. And if you're looking for a new fantasy book to read, you can also check out my first novel, The Heroes Fall When War Calls. Set in World War IV, has an element of magic in it, and it's just good end of the world type fun. Usual links below, sub, like and share, catch ya.